Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Belinda, and this is my weekly wrap-up. So, this will drop on July 6th, filming it July 5th. That explains some stuff. First of all, it's like 12:30, and I just came downstairs. I skipped the coffee and went right to the Waterloo. Our 4th of July, we went to the parade. We had a friend over. We cooked out. My husband and kids blew stuff up. The gabapentin for the cat has waned. I need to get new pills for her. And our neighbors, some neighbors in our neighborhood, not our immediate neighbors, but someone in our neighborhood feels that the 4th of July just keeps going and going and going. So I was awake very late last night. I was in bed. I just was not sleeping because of the explosions. But yes, so I'm a little off my schedule today, but yeah. So if you were in the United States, I hope you had a nice 4th of July. And if you are in the UK, good on you guys. Good on you guys. You give me hope. That's all I'm saying. You give me hope. Anyway, enough of that. Actually, not enough of that, because I want to talk about something. Now, I am a kind of political person. I am a political person. I enjoy talking politics. I enjoy following politics. I think about politics. I'm very good about not talking about politics in places where I shouldn't, like with my family. But, you know, on this Booktube channel, I've made kind of allusions. If you watch this channel, you know, like, you know where I stand. It's not a surprise. But I've never kind of overtly talked about politics. And the reason is because I thought I would only ever do that if it made sense with what I was reading or something to do with reading, because this is a Booktube channel. I really respect people like Brian and Bookish who do these great videos on his political views. My fear is I'm not as articulate as he is. So let's go into the rest of this with just knowing I'm not as articulate as Brian. There is something I want to talk about. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because it does apply to books, the book world, bookish stuff. And I think it's really important. If you have heard of something called Project 2025, it is something that Donald Trump campaigns in, and yet he says he doesn't know anything about. Basically, whatever Donald Trump says, you just take the opposite of, or if you blame someone else, you know he's done it, kind of thing. Anyway, this is a authoritarian handbook put out by the Heritage Foundation, which is a far-right leaning group, of what they want to do in the next Trump presidency, and it is terrifying. It is anti-American in every way. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is, like, how would this affect reading? Like, reading should still be escape. Would it still be an escape? It will affect reading. One of the many things in Project 2025 is they're going to outlaw, ban, make illegal pornography. Problem is, their idea of pornography is very wide. It's actually very vaguely defined in Project 2025, but that group, they have a very wide definition of pornography. So while I might consider pornography like Penthouse magazine, they would consider pornography like Allie Hazel would. That's the name that came off my head. What I'm saying is Project 2025 will have an impact. If God forbid, it becomes a thing, it will have an impact on the bookish world. Authors will not be able to write freely. Now, I am not someone who looks for really spicy reading, but I firmly believe people have the right to write whatever they feel they should be writing. And the fact to legalize that, and I know a lot of people who enjoy these romances, and I'm not talking about erotica here, I'm talking mainstream romances, would become illegal under what it looks like their definition of pornography is. Plus, there's other ways they could go in, anything kind of anti-establishment, anything like that. So if you don't know what Project 2025 is, look it up. Look, there's a bazillion places. You can go get the actual document online for free. It's 900 pages. You can also get people talking about it. A lot less time to watch those videos than it is to read 900 pages. And they're great explanations of it. But just to know, it is a very scary thing, and it would have a very material impact on the bookish world. So if you don't know what it is, you need to do your duty and go find out what Project 2025 is. And just Google, like, follow Taraji P. Henson, just Google Project 2025 and find out what it is, because it is absolutely terrifying. And there. That's all I'm going to say because I cannot be as articulate as Brian. Maybe Brian will come. Brian, maybe you should do a video about it because you're so articulate. Just calling him out there. Anyway, that is that. And I've got these little pins. You're going to see like some subliminal messages in my videos, but I currently only have 2 pins, but I've ordered more. So you're going to have to keep watching to see what my pins are that I'll be wearing. Anyway, so what else? End of my little political thing. Just do yourself a favor. Even if you're not in the United States, this is, you know, with the exception of maybe Britain, there's unfortunately a shift towards far-right ideology. So look at, this is something that you can look at and see it's a roadmap. They put it in writing. They said the really quiet stuff out loud in this. So look it up. Okay, end of that. I'll let Brian or whoever else can be more articulate than I am talk about it. So we are at the beginning of a heat dome here in the Pacific Northwest. We don't do that well. We don't. I make a lot of jokes about people in the Pacific Northwest being weather wimps, but the jokes are funny because they're true. We like our summer weather to be between 72 and 82 if we're really flexible. A lot of people have a smaller window. 72 to 82 is good, but we're looking at triple digits and we don't do that well. Air conditioning in this part of the country is something that until recently has not been widely available. I mean, in public buildings, you probably could get it. Movie theaters were always air conditioned, but air conditioning in homes, that's like, and there are a lot of homes in my area and probably farther north. If you go, I'm in the Portland area, but if you go up into the Seattle area, probably even more that don't have, I mean, nice homes. We're not talking, you know, homes that are in low income districts. We're talking about nice homes that don't have air conditioning because until recently we didn't need air conditioning. We currently have air conditioning because this is the first house I've ever lived in that had air conditioning. And yes, I grew up in Oregon, but I also lived in Virginia and Boston and never lived where there was air conditioning. We have air conditioning. But our house was not built with it. We had to add it. So this is a thing that's making me unhappy. It's too much heat. It's too much heat. We went to the 4th of July parade. Maybe I'll put some 4th of July pictures and stuff here. Yeah, so we did that. And it wasn't even that hot at that point then. It was like 82, but it was at 10 in the morning. And oh man, I was so sweaty afterwards. And even now I'm like, ugh, and I'm in air conditioning. So yes, the good news is that gives me lots of reading time because it's too dang hot to do anything else. So yeah, so keep us, you know, all you people who, you know, who have hurricanes and tornadoes and blizzards and whatever else torrential weather that we don't have, keep us in your prayers because we're a little bit hot. Okay, anyway, I've done politics, I've done weather, so let's get to the books. This week, I finished 4 books. And one of them, Doppelganger, A Trip into the Mirror World, is for a Booktube prize, so I will not be talking about it. If you want to know what I thought about it, come back on August 1st. So I'll talk about the 3 books that I finished. So the first one took me a whole like 5 minutes to read, but that was In the Night Kitchen by Maurice Sendak. This is a book, I think I talk about it on my wrap-up video, which you have not seen yet, so I will talk about it again here. On a couple of my summer bingo card, I have to read, well, does it say a book banned or challenged? Banned or challenged, but another one says banned or challenged in Oregon. And as far as I can tell, there's currently only 2 books in Oregon that are banned in a school district. The first is Lolita in the Canby School District, and then in Southern Oregon, The Handmaid's Tale. And I've already read Lolita and The Handmaid's Tale, and I just don't have it in me to read either one of them again right now. So I found some lists of books that in the past had been banned and challenged. I looked for something that was available at my library and fast. So it was either Curious George or this book. Curious George, by the way, was banned because it promoted children's bad behavior. This one is banned because it has some anatomically correct pictures. And when I say anatomically correct, like we're like a baby step up from a Ken doll without pants on. It's nothing. But yeah, so I read this. I was not surprised that that's why this was, because it's Maurice Sendak. And Maurice Sendak was, you know, I saw an interview with him. He said that he never, even though he wrote Where the Wild Things Are and other books that are children's classics, he never considered himself writing for a child. That was not his audience that he thought about. So, you know, I'm not surprised. And as far as the book, it's a nice little fun book. I think that if I had read this to my kids when they were little, they'd be like, what? Huh? It's a little strange, but it's Maurice Sendak. That's what you expect. So, you know, I'm glad I read it. So now I can say that I have done, I can mark off those bingo squares. If anyone's doing the 24 and 24, which I am not because I read a lot of banned books anyway, you know, there's only so much I can do during the year. You want a quick one? There you go. Plus you get to see some anatomically correct drawings in a children's book. Again, one step up from a Ken doll. And then, okay, so then I finished on July 1st because I really wanted to finish this in June and it didn't quite happen. I read The Dovekeepers by Alice Hoffman. So this book, first of all, this book is freaking long. It's like 516 pages, I think. And I had to take breaks from it. And and this is not to say that it's a bad book because I ended up giving this book an A+. So it's a good book. It probably would have been a 5-star book if, well, two things. And one is hard for me to talk about without being a spoiler. I'm going to be very vague about it. One is there was an element of the history I wasn't aware of. And had I been aware of that history, I probably would have had different feelings while reading this book, if that makes, that's very vague. It's just very vague. But I learned something in this book, so that's good. But the other reason is I did actually have to take breaks of it. For example, I did not read this when I was reading Red Rabbit. That was too much. Too much. There's a lot of really hard stuff in this book. So we follow 4 women. Am I right? I think, yes, we follow 4 women who, they all come to Masada. So Masada was a fortress. It had been a palace by Herod the Great, and then it was abandoned. And then when the Romans came in and they took over Jerusalem and they started being Romanish to the people who were there, a number like 900 people of the Jewish faith went and they barricaded themselves at Masada for a while. I mean, they were there for a couple of years. Look up the history. Probably look up a little bit more than I did because then you'll go in with a little bit more of a thing. By the way, total square. Sorry about this. I changed the view on my camera and the lighting, I can't get it right. Anyway. So we follow these 4 women. So it's really a character study of these 4 women and it's fascinating. It is very well written. It is beautifully written. It is heartbreaking. These women are so well drawn. Now they are all Jewish, but the Judaism in this book is a more ancient Judaism than today, at least as far as I know as someone who's not Jewish. There's a lot of talk about goddesses and things like that that I don't think are currently part of Judaism. So it seems very pagan, what we would consider pagan, this sort of thing, like the older religions are still kind of in there, if that makes any sense. But it's really fascinating. And there's also a character in there who is considered a witch. And yeah, so you have that sort of magic element. It's not magic to the point that, I mean, Alice Hoffman wrote practical magic, so it's not like that kind of magic, but it's folk magic. I would not call it magical realism because, again, it's folk magic, and I think that's different than magical realism. So there you go. But these women, you get their lives leading up to being Masada, and then what happens to them when they're in Masada. And it's really hard stuff happens. Like, really, there's some really, like, I was like, okay, I read that. Now we're going to put this down and go read something else because... but it's really good. My only suggestion with it is to read more of the history of Masada than apparently I knew going into it. Cause, yeah, I can't say any more, it would be a spoiler, but you know, Alice Hoffman is a fantastic writer and a number of people have said this is her best book. I will say this is probably the best of her books I have read so far. It is quite, I can tell that it was a very important book for her to write, if that makes sense. And I would also say, if you're reading this, you know, sandwich it between 2 other lighter things or have another light book going because, yeah, it's heavy. Yeah, it's really heavy. So yeah, that was The Dovekeepers by Alice Hoffman, a 5-star book. Okay, I had another book that I don't have here. I thought I brought it over. Hold Hold on. Sorry, it was like in a pile of books it shouldn't have been in. I did a mad cleaning yesterday before we had guests over, so who knows where anything is. This book came from my like 10 or 12. I need to figure out how many they were. Books I said I was going to read before the end of 2024. And so I had tried to read The English Wife, which was a no-go for me. I DNF'd. I picked this one up instead, which is The Girl from the Savoy by Hazel Gaynor. So I have read Hazel Gaynor before, and I have liked her. She's not like she's not a heavy hitter in historical fiction, if that makes any sense. Her books are very delightful, and they're a good diversion. And I would say this falls into that category. In this, we kind of follow two main characters. There's a young woman named Dolly who is a maid at the Savoy, but she has dreams of being on the stage. And then there is an actress named Loretta May, or Virginia Clemson. I think Virginia was her real name, Virginia Clemson, or something like that. I don't know. It's not important. Who is an established star. Her brother Perry bumps into Dolly at one point, and then they decide to kind of Pygmalion her. Okay, so let me tell you a story about me reading this book. It kept my attention to the point. This is a thing that happened 2 nights ago, or 2 or 3 nights ago. So I was in bed, my husband came into bed, and he said Lily, our daughter, had been sick, but he thinks it was just something she ate. She's fine. Like, okay, didn't worry about it. And then in the morning, the cat jumps off the bed and starts like trying to hack up, cat puke. And like that wakes you up like that. And so when Lily woke up, I said, just so you know, I can sleep through you puking, but I can't sleep through the cat puking. And she looked at me and she said, Mom, you weren't asleep. I'm like, what? And she's like, I wasn't feeling well. I came downstairs to get a bowl just in case, and then I ended up puking right in front of you, and you didn't look up from your book. And it was this book. That makes it probably sound like this book was a lot more engrossing than it actually was, but whatever. It was a fun diversion. Thinking back on it, I think I gave it a B. So there was a lot of moving parts in this book that I don't think really moved together well in some places. I also felt like the end was oddly dissatisfying. So, if you're just looking for like a quick kind of breezy historical fiction, this is set in 1923 in London. Yeah, pick it up, but it's not one that I would recommend and say, oh, this is good historical fiction. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of Hazel Gaynor's books though. So, whatever. It was what I expected, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, that came out of the bag. So that's one less book I have to read or get rid of. I think I have 5 left, one of which is going to get read this month, and that's Rules of Civility. So yes. So that was my reading week. As usual, I will put everything I'm currently reading down below. And then I'm going to go try and not to melt for the rest of the day because, it's hot here and we can't handle it. So thank you very much for spending this time with me. Like, subscribe, go Google Project 2025, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.